Hello everyone, tonight we're diving into something strange, something that's been keeping me up way past my usual bedtime. Picture this, it's midnight, my apartment's bathed in the soft glow of a single lamp, and the city outside hums like it's holding its breath. The air's thick with that peculiar stillness, the kind that makes every creak of the floorboards sound like a warning. You might not survive this. So, before you get too cozy, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I'm curious where you're all listening from. Now, turn off the lights, maybe switch on a fan for some soft white noise, and let's begin our journey tonight. I'm sprawled on my couch, half watching some mindless rerun on TV, when I hear it a whisper. Not the kind you'd mistake for the wind or a neighbor's muffled argument. No, this is sharp, deliberate, like someone's leaning right next to my ear saying something I can't quite catch. I mute the TV heart, doing that little skip it does when you're not sure if you're imagining things. Nothing. Just the hum of my fridge and the distant wail of a siren. I chuckle to myself. Great, now I'm jumping at shadows like some paranoid protagonist in a B-movie. But then, it comes again. Softer, slithering through the walls like it's testing me. Okay, universe, I mutter, you've got my attention. I get up, bare feet cold against the hardwood, and tiptoe toward the sound. It's coming from the corner near my desk, where I've got a mess of notebooks, coffee mugs, and a plant I'm pretty sure is judging me for forgetting to water it. The whispers fade as I get closer, like they're playing hide and seek. I press my ear to the wall, feeling a bit ridiculous. It's just old pipes, right? Or maybe the neighbors are into some late-night ASMR roleplay. Joke's on me for thinking my life's suddenly a horror podcast. But the wall's cool, to the touch almost too cool, and I swear, I feel a faint vibration, like something's alive in there. I step back, scanning the room. My apartment's small, cozy if you're feeling generous. One bedroom, a kitchen I barely use, and a living room that's mostly a shrine to my bad decisions, like that neon sign I bought on a whim that flickers, "Eat in pink." Nothing's out of place, but the air feels charged, like right before a storm. I grab my phone thinking I'll record the sound if it happens again. Proof, because if I'm losing it, I at least want evidence to laugh at later. I sit back down, phone ready, and wait. The silence stretches, mocking me. Just as I'm about to give up, the whisper returns clearer now. A single word, find. I freeze. Find what? My missing sock. The meaning of life. A better internet provider. I'm half laughing, half freaked out, because this is not how I plan to spend my Tuesday night. I check the time. 03 a.m. The smart move would be to go to bed, chalk it up to exhaustion. But curiosity is a stubborn thing, and I've never been great at leaving mysteries unsolved. I start pacing, trying to pinpoint the sound. It's not just one spot now. It's like the walls are gossiping, passing the whisper around. I knock on one half, expecting a secret door to pop open, like in some Scooby-Doo episode. No such luck. Here's a bit of elderly wisdom for you. My grandma used to say, "If the house speaks, you listen, but don't answer." She was full of cryptic stuff like that, probably from too many winters in her creaky old farmhouse. I'm starting to think she was onto something. And here's an odd fact. Did you know? Some buildings are designed to amplify sound through their structure. Like vibrations from a single footstep can travel through walls if the materials are just right. Architects call it acoustic resonance, but I'm calling it creepy as hell right now. The whispers don't stop, but they're fainter, like they're daring me to dig deeper. I grab a flashlight, because of course my phone's battery is at 12%, and start inspecting the apartment. I check vents, windows, even the gap under my fridge, where I once lost a pizza slice. Nothing. But the feeling of being watched is growing like the walls have eyes. There's this phrase academics love to debate, the uncanny valley, where something's almost human, but just off enough to make your skin crawl. That's what these whispers feel like, not quite natural, but close enough to mess with my head. I end up back at my desk, staring at the notebook I was doodling in earlier. It's open to a blank page, but I swear I left it closed. I'm not saying the whispers did it, but I'm also not saying that. I jot down what I heard find, because writing it makes it feel less like a fever dream. The whispers are quiet now, but the silence is worse, like the calm before something big. I lean back, rubbing my eyes, and decide I'm not sleeping tonight. Not until I figure out what's going on. Because if my apartment's trying to tell me something, I'm too stubborn to ignore it. The whispers didn't stop, but they've turned into this low, teasing hum, like they're daring me to chase them. So here I am at 2 a.m., standing at the top of the stairs, leading to my building's basement flashlight in one hand, phone in the other, and a questionable life choice in my heart. The door creaks as I push it open. Because of course it does. Every creepy basement door has to sound like it's auditioning for a horror flick. The air hits me first, damp and stale, like the breath of a place that hasn't seen sunlight in decades. I mutter, if I die down here, I'm haunting the landlord and take the first step. The stairs groan under my weight, each one a little protest against my dumb decision. The fluorescent lights overhead flicker, buzzing like angry wasps, and the shadows they cast twist across the walls like they're alive. I sweep my flashlight around, half expecting a jump scare, but it's just a basement, crates stacked, haphazardly, pipes sweating with condensation, and a boiler that looks like it's one bad day away from exploding. But the whispers are louder here, woven into the hum of the building like they're part of its pulse. I pause, straining to catch the words. It's gibberish, or maybe not. There's a rhythm to it, like a chant you'd hear in some forgotten temple. Joke's on me for thinking I'd solve this with a flashlight and zero survival skills. I move deeper, my sneakers scuffing against the gritty floor. The air's colder now, and I swear I see my breath puff out though it's June. I shine the light on a crate, its wood splintered and stamped with faded shipping labels. Property of J. Harrow, 1947. One reads, "Who's J. Harrow? Why's this stuff still here?" I'm tempted to pry it open, but I've seen enough movies to know that's how you unleash a curse, or worse, a cloud of mold. I keep moving, following the whispers, which seem to bounce off the walls like they're leading me somewhere. My phone's at 8% now. Great planning, me. And I'm starting to wonder if I should have left a note for someone to find my body. There's a corner of the basement that feels wrong. The light doesn't seem to reach it properly, like it's being swallowed. The whispers are clearest here, a soft chorus that makes my skin prickle. I aim the flashlight, and it catches on something, a metal grate in the wall, half hidden behind a stack of crates. It's rusted, but the screws look loose, like someone's been messing with it. My gut says to leave it alone, but my gut also said to eat leftover sushi last week, so it's not exactly batting 1,000. I nudge a crate aside, and the grate rattles, sending a puff of dust into the air. The whispers spike sharp and urgent, then drop to nothing. Silence. The kind that makes you hold your breath. I kneel, peering into the grate. It's too dark to see much, but there's a faint draft, cool and steady, carrying the faintest hint of what, incense? That's weird. Basements don't smell like temples. I tug at the grate, and it gives way easier than I expect, clanging to the floor. I wince, waiting for someone to barge in and yell at me for trespassing in my own building. Nothing happens. The hole in the wall is just big enough to crawl through, and the whispers start again, soft and coaxing, like they're saying, "Come on, you're this far." I laugh nervously. Am I really about to crawl into a creepy wall hole because some disembodied voices told me to? Apparently, yes. Here's some elderly wisdom my grandpa once said. Never follow a voice you don't trust unless it's offering free pie. He was a practical man, but I'm pretty sure he didn't mean ghostly basement whispers. And an odd fact for you, basements in older buildings often have hidden rooms or passages built for storage, or in some cases, shadier stuff like Prohibition-era smuggling. Historians debate how common these were, but I'm starting to think my building's got secrets it's been itching to spill. The whispers feel like they're part of that, a thread I'm tugging, without knowing what's on the other end. I shine my flashlight into the hole. It's a narrow passage, walls rough with exposed brick floor, littered with debris. The whispers are coming from deeper in, and I'm torn between curiosity and the part of my brain screaming, "This is how you become a true crime podcast." I check my phone again, 7% now, and no signal. Perfect. I take a deep breath, tell myself I'm just checking it out for like 5 minutes, and crawl inside. The walls are tight, scraping my shoulders, and the air's heavy with that incense smell. The whispers grow clearer, almost words now, and I can't shake the feeling I'm not alone down here. Something's waiting, and I'm walking right toward it. I'm crouched in this claustrophobic passage, flashlight beam wobbling like my nerves, and the whispers are back, curling around me like smoke. The air's thick with that incense smell, and the walls feel closer than they should, like the building's holding its breath. I'm starting to think crawling into a creepy wall hole wasn't my brightest idea. But there's no turning back now, mostly because I'm too stubborn. Partly because I'm not sure I could wiggle out backward without getting stuck. The whispers are softer but clearer, almost forming words like they're guiding me deeper. I mutter, "If this is a prank, I'm billing you for my therapy," and shuffle forward, scraping my knees on the rough floor. The passage opens into a wider space, not quite a room, but more like a forgotten nook. The building swallowed. My flashlight catches on piles of junk, rusted tools, mildewed cardboard, and stacks of yellowed newspapers that look like they've been here since the moon landing. The whispers seem to hum from the walls themselves, vibrating in my chest like a subwoofer. I sweep the light around, and that's when I see it, a leather-bound journal, half buried under a pile of crumbling papers in the corner. It's old, the cover cracked like dry skin, but it doesn't look like it belongs with the rest of this junk. It's too deliberate, like someone left it here for me to find. Okay, that's a bit dramatic, but you try staying rational when your basement's whispering sweet nothings. I brush off the dust coughing as it swirls into the air and pick up the journal. It's heavier than it looks, the leather cool and oddly smooth under my fingers. The whispers spike for a second, sharp like a needle, then settle back into their low hum. I open it, half expecting it to burst into flames or summon a demon. But it's just pages yellowed brittle, filled with tight spidery handwriting. The first page has a name, J. Harrow. Same as the crate I saw earlier. Coincidence maybe, but I'm not buying it. The writing's faded, but I catch phrases like the ritual and the binding. Great, my building's got a history of creepy book clubs. I flip through and a loose page slips out, fluttering to the floor. It's a sketch symbols. I don't recognize circles and lines that look like they mean something to someone way weirder than me. I stuff the page back in heart thudding. The whispers are quieter now, like they're satisfied I found this thing. I'm not sure what to make of it, but I'm not leaving it here. I tuck the journal under my arm and glance around. The nook feels smaller, the shadows thicker, like the light struggling to push them back. My phone's dead now. Classic, and the flashlight starting to flicker. Perfect timing, universe. I joke to myself. If I get eaten by a basement monster, I'm leaving a 1-star review, but my voice sounds thin, swallowed by the dark. Here's some elderly wisdom. My aunt used to say, "Old things carry old promises. Be careful what you pick up." She was talking about thrift store furniture, but I'm pretty sure it applies to mysterious basement journals too. And an odd fact, some historians argue that handwritten journals from the early 20th century often contained coded messages, especially in communities tied to esoteric groups. They call it occult cryptography, and it's a whole academic debate about whether it's mysticism or just bored people with too much ink. Right now, I'm leaning toward mysticism because this journal's giving me vibes I don't like. I start back toward the passage journal clutched tight. The whispers follow, faint but persistent, like they're tagging along to see what I do next. I'm not sure if I'm paranoid or if the air's actually heavier, but every step feels like I'm wading through molasses. I pass the grate I crawl through, and for a second I swear I hear something else. A shuffle like footsteps somewhere behind me. I spin around, flashlight cutting through the dark, but there's nothing. Just dust and shadows, playing tricks. Or maybe not. I'm not sticking around to find out. I scramble through the grate, banging my elbow, and haul myself back into the main basement, panting like I just ran a marathon. The fluorescent lights are still flickering, but they feel like a lifeline now. I lean against a crate, journal in my hands, and try to calm my breathing. The whispers are barely audible here, but I can still feel them like a buzz in my bones. I open the journal again just to make sure it's real. The handwriting's still there, dense and cryptic, talking about the vessel and the call. I'm no expert, but this doesn't sound like someone's grocery list. I close it, deciding I'll read it properly upstairs, preferably with all the lights on and a cup of coffee strong enough to wake the dead. Because whatever J. Harrow was into, I'm pretty sure it's why my apartment's talking to me. Back in my apartment, I'm hunched over my desk like some wannabe detective. The journal open under the glare of my lamp. The whispers have gone quiet, but their absence is almost worse, like the building's watching, waiting for my next move. It's 3 a.m. And I've got a mug of coffee, so strong it could bench press my insomnia. The journal's pages stare back at me, J. Harrow's spidery handwriting, taunting me with words like ritual and binding. But it's the sketch I found, the one with those weird symbols, that's got my brain in a chokehold. They're not just doodles. They're precise, like a blueprint for something I really don't want to know about. I mutter, if this summons a demon, I'm moving, and take a sip of coffee that burns my tongue. Rookie mistake. I grab a notebook and start copying the symbols, circles within circles, jagged lines, and what looks like a squiggly arrow crossed with a star. They don't match anything I've seen, not in math class or those late-night Wikipedia binges about ancient runes. I'm no codebreaker, but I'm stubborn, and the whispers didn't drag me through a basement crawl space for nothing. I sketch each one carefully, my pencil scratching in the silence. The lamp flickers once, and I freeze, half expecting the whispers to kick back in. Nothing. Just my over-caffeinated nerves. I joke to myself, if the lights go out, I'm eating this book out the window. But I keep going, because quitting now feels like letting the building win. After an hour, I've got a page of symbols and a headache. Some repeat forming patterns, like a language or a map. I notice one symbol, a spiral with a slash through it. Shows up more than the others, always near words, like vessel in the journal. I flip back to Harrow's writing, trying to make sense of it. It's cryptic, talking about sealing the call and the price of waking. Sounds like a bad fantasy novel, but the way my skin's crawling says it's more than fiction. I find a passage about the signs etched in stone, and my mind flashes to the basement walls. Were those bricks just bricks? Or did I miss something? I'm tempted to go back down, but my survival instincts finally show up screaming. Not at 3 a.m., you idiot. I lean back, rubbing my eyes, and notice the coffee's gone cold. The apartment's too quiet, like it's eavesdropping. I get up to paste journal in hand and try to piece it together. Harrow's notes suggest a ritual, something tied to those symbols, maybe performed in this building. The binding part sounds like they were trying to lock something away, not summon it. That's so comforting. Maybe, but the price bit has me worried. Rituals and stories always want blood or souls, or like your favorite hoodie. I chuckle nervously. Great, now I'm bargaining with imaginary demons over my wardrobe. Here's some elderly wisdom my dad used to say. Don't mess with puzzles you can't solve unless you're ready to break the board. He meant it about life, but it fits here. Messing with this journal feels like kicking a hornet's nest. And an odd fact, scholars debate whether ancient symbols, like those in Mesopotamian tablets, were just writing or held ritualistic power. They call it symbology in praxis, arguing over whether it's superstition or something real. I'm no academic, but copying these symbols feels like I'm flirting with the something real side, and it's not a cute flirt. I dig out my laptop, thankfully still charged, and start searching for the symbols online. No exact matches, but I find forums about occult stuff where people post grainy photos of similar shapes carved into old buildings. One thread mentions anchor sigils, symbols meant to hold something in place, like a metaphysical padlock. That tracks with Harrow's binding talk, but it's not exactly reassuring. If this building's an anchor, what's it holding? I close the laptop, feeling like I've peeked behind a curtain I shouldn't have. The journal sits there, innocent as a brick, but I'm not fooled. Those symbols are a key, and I'm already turning the lock. I glance at the window pitch, black outside, city lights muted by fog. The apartment feels smaller, like the walls are inching closer when I'm not looking. I'm probably just tired, but I swear the air's heavier, like it's carrying the weight of Harrow's words. I jot down a plan. Tomorrow I'll check the basement again, daylight this time, and maybe ask around about the building's history. For now, I'm keeping the journal close, tucked under my pillow, like some paranoid kid with a diary. I laugh softly. If the whispers come back, they're gonna have to deal with my caffeine-fueled attitude first. I'm back in my apartment journal tucked under my pillow, like it's a grenade, but sleep's not happening. The coffee's still buzzing in my veins, and the silence feels like it's got teeth. It's pushing 4 a.m., and I'm lying there, staring at the ceiling when I hear it. Not the whispers this time, but footsteps. Heavy, deliberate pacing, back and forth somewhere outside my door. My first thought is, great, my neighbors practicing for the Insomnia Olympics. But there's something off about the rhythm. It's too slow, too purposeful, like someone's working through a problem with their feet. I mutter, if you're summoning demons too, we need to coordinate and swing my legs out of bed. Curiosity dragging me up again. I creep to the door, barefoot, avoiding the creaky floorboard by muscle memory. The hallway's just beyond, and I press my ear to the wood, feeling like a nosy kid eavesdropping on grown-ups. The pacing's louder now, a steady thud-thud-thud, and I swear I hear a low murmur, like someone's talking to themselves. My neighbor, Mrs. Kaplan, lives across the hall. She's in her 60s, keeps to herself, and once yelled at me for leaving a pizza box in the recycling. Could be her, but why is she up at this hour? I crack the door just enough to peek. The hallway's dim lit by a single flickering bulb, and there's a thin strip of light leaking under her door, shifting like someone's moving inside. The pacing stops. I hold my breath, waiting for it to start again. Nothing. Just the hum of the building, like it's smirking at me. I slip into the hallway journal in hand, because apparently I'm not going anywhere without it now, and tiptoe toward her door. The air's cooler out here, and the shadows stretch long, twisting, like they're reaching for me. I notice scuff marks on the floor, faint but fresh, like someone's been pacing for hours. I kneel, running my fingers over them, and that's when I hear it. A sharp creak from inside Kaplan's apartment, like a chair being dragged. My heart does a little tap dance, and I whisper, if you're a serial killer, I'm terrible at running. Joke's on me for thinking humor's gonna save me from whatever's going on. I stand debating whether to knock. What do I even say? Hey, Mrs. Kaplan, you summoning ancient entities or just working on your step count? Before I can decide, the light under her door flicks off, plunging the hallway into near darkness. The bulb overhead buzzes, threatening to give up entirely. I back toward my apartment journal, clutch tight, and that's when I see it a shadow, just for a second, moving across the gap under her door. Not like someone walking, but gliding. I blink, and it's gone. Probably my tired eyes playing tricks, but my skin's telling me to get the hell out of here. I'm back inside my place in record time, locking the door like it's gonna stop a ghost. Here's some elderly wisdom my mom used to say: don't poke at shadows unless you're ready to meet what's casting them. She was talking about gossip, but it hits different when you're spying on your neighbor's creepy nighttime habits. And an odd fact, psychologists debate something called pareidolia, where your brain sees patterns like faces, or shapes in random stuff. It's why we see ghosts in shadows or hear voices in white noise. Academic types argue whether it's just wiring or something deeper, but right now, I'm pretty sure that shadow wasn't just my brain being extra. I'm back on my couch, journal open, trying to calm down. Kaplan's pacing has me spooked, especially after finding Harrow's notes about rituals. What if she's involved in it? Nah, that's ridiculous. She's more likely to be mad about my recycling than chanting in a cult. But those scuff marks, that shadow. I jot down what I saw, because writing it feels like taking control. I flip through the journal again, looking for clues. Harrow mentions the Watchers, people who guard the binding. Could Kaplan be one? Or am I just sleep-deprived and paranoid? I laugh softly. Great. Now I'm accusing my neighbor of being a supernatural bouncer. The apartment's quiet again, but it's not the cozy kind. I keep glancing at the door, half expecting a knock. I'm not sure what's worse, Kaplan being part of this, or me being alone with a journal that's probably cursed. I decide to keep an eye on her, discreetly, because I'm not trying to get evicted for being the weird neighbor. For now, I'm staying put, journal close, and maybe I'll sleep with the lights on. If Kaplan's up to something, I'll figure it out. Because whatever's going on in this building, I'm too deep to back out now. The sun's barely up, fog blanketing the city like a bad dream that won't quit. I'm outside my apartment building, journal zipped into my jacket, trying to clear my head after last night's chaos. The air's damp, clinging to my skin, and the street's quiet, except for the occasional car hissing through the mist. I'm sipping coffee from a to-go cup, hoping daylight makes the world feel less like a horror movie set. But then I see them, a figure in a hooded coat standing across the street, still as a statue. No face visible, just a dark shape against the fog. My stomach twists and I mutter, "If you're here to sell me a cursed amulet, I'm good, thanks." The whispers are back, faint, riding the breeze like they're tagging along to mess with me. I squint, trying to make out details. The figure's tall hands in pockets, and they're facing my building like they're watching it, or me. I check my phone, 6:47 a.m. No messages, and I'm already regretting not staying in bed. The whispers aren't words, just a low hum, but they're louder when I focus on the figure. Coincidence? Probably not, considering my luck lately. I take a step forward, thinking I'll call out, maybe scare off some random creep. But the moment I move, they turn and walk away, vanishing into the fog, like they were never there. I blink, coffee sloshing in my hand. Okay, that's not ominous at all, I say, half laughing, half freaked out. I cross the street, following their path, because apparently I've learned nothing from horror movies. The whispers fade as I reach the spot where they stood, nothing there but wet pavement and a faint smell like old books or incense. Same vibe as the basement. I scan the ground, hoping for a clue, like a dropped note saying, "Sorry for being creepy. Here's the plot twist." No luck. But the journal in my jacket feels heavier, like it's reminding me it's the key to this mess. I'm starting to think Harrow's Watchers aren't just a metaphor. Maybe that figure's one of them, keeping tabs on whatever's locked in this building. Or maybe I'm just a sleep-deprived conspiracy theorist with a cursed book. I head back toward the building, glancing over my shoulders every few steps. The fog's thicker now, swallowing the streetlights, and the whispers are gone, leaving a ringing in my ears. I pause at the entrance, noticing something new. Scratches on the door frame, shallow, but deliberate, like someone carved them with a knife. They're not random. They match one of the symbols from the journal, the spiral with a slash. My coffee goes cold in my hand. Great, now the building's got tattoos, I mutter, pulling out my phone to snap a photo. The scratches weren't there yesterday. I'd bet my last dollar on it. Here's some elderly wisdom my uncle used to say. If you see a shadow that don't belong, don't chase it, mark it, and move on. He was a fisherman talking about weird stuff at sea, but it fits. Chasing that hooded figure was dumb, but those scratches, they're a mark I can't ignore. And an odd fact, anthropologists debate apotropaic mark carvings meant to ward off evil found on old buildings. Some say they're superstition. Others think they tap into something real, like a cultural memory of rituals. Those scratches feel apotropaic, but I'm not sure if they're keeping something out or in. I head inside, journal burning a hole in my jacket. My plan's simple: talk to Kaplan, check the basement in daylight, and dig into the building's history. I take the stairs, avoiding the elevator's creepy hum, and reach my floor. Kaplan's door is shut, no light underneath, but I notice something else, a faint chalk mark on the wall beside it. Another spiral slash symbol. My pulse picks up. Either Kaplan's in on this, or someone's marking her place too. I knock soft at first, then louder. No answer. I'm tempted to try the knob, but breaking and entering's a bit much even for me. I head back to my apartment, locking the door behind me. Inside, I spread the journal and my notes on the desk, staring at the symbols. The hooded figure, the scratches, the whispers, it's all connected to Harrow's ritual. I'm no hero, but I'm too stubborn to drop this. I fire up my laptop, searching for J. Harrow and the building's address. Nothing solid, but an old forum post mentions a Harrow family tied to a 1940s spiritualist group in the city. Could be a lead. I jot it down, then lean back, coffee forgotten. The fog's still thick outside, and I can't shake the feeling I'm being watched, not just by the building, but by something older, waiting for me to make the wrong move. It's late afternoon, and I'm in the local library, a place that smells like old paper and forgotten stories. The journal's in my backpack, weighing me down like a guilty secret. After this morning's hooded figure and those creepy scratches, I figured it's time to dig into the building's history and maybe figure out who J. Harrow was before I end up starring in my own ghost story. The library's quiet, just a few retirees flipping through newspapers and a bored clerk scrolling on her phone. I head to the archives section, where the air feels heavier, like it's holding on to secrets. The whispers are back, faint but unmistakable, slithering from the shelves like they followed me here. I mutter, "If you're gonna haunt me, at least help me find the right book," and start scanning the rows. The archive's a maze of dusty tomes and yellowed files with titles like City Planning Records, 1930 per 1950, and Municipal Property Deeds. I pull a few, hoping for anything on my building or Harrow. The whispers get louder when I touch a battered binder labeled Historical Society, Notes 1940s. It's like they're cheering me on or warning me. I carry it to a table, the wood scarred from decades of use, and open it. Inside are handwritten notes, grainy photos, and newspaper clippings about the city's post-war boom. My building shows up in a photo, a grainy shot from 1947, looking almost identical to now, except for a weird symbol carved above the entrance. It's the spiral slash from the journal. My skin prickles. Okay, that's not a coincidence, I whisper, glancing around like someone's gonna shush me. I keep reading, and J. Harrow's name pops up in a clipping about a spiritualist society that met in the city during the 1940s. The article's vague, calling them eccentric but harmless, but mentions Harrow as a key figure who owns several properties, including, yep, my building. The whispers hum, almost pleased, as I jot this down. Another note mentions a disturbance at the building in 1948, something about strange noises, and a police report that went nowhere. Sounds familiar. I'm starting to think Harrow's ritual wasn't just a hobby, and those watchers might still be around, keeping whatever he bound locked tight, or trying to. I dig deeper, finding a reference to an archive box in the library's basement labeled Harrow Estate Papers. The whispers spike sharp and urgent, like they're pointing me there. I hesitate another basement. Really? But I'm too deep to back out now. I ask the clerk about the box, and she sighs, muttering about dusty junk before handing me a key and pointing to a stairwell. Don't break anything, she says. I joke. No promises if it's cursed, but she's already back to her phone. The stairwell's dim, and the whispers follow me down louder with every step. The basement's a concrete crypt stacked with boxes and flickering lights that make me miss my flashlight. I find the Harrow box old and taped shut, and my hands shake as I cut it open. Inside are letters, photos, and a small notebook, same spidery handwriting as the journal. One letter dated 1947 talks about sealing the breach and paying the cost. It's signed by Harrow and addressed to someone named E. Kaplan. My heart stops. Kaplan like Mrs. Kaplan, my neighbor. No way. It's the same person. She's old, but not that old. Maybe a relative? The whispers are a chorus now, buzzing in my skull. I stuff the notebook and a few letters into my backpack, feeling like a thief, but too spooked to care. The lights flicker hard, and for a second I swear I see a shadow move across the far wall, not mine. I mutter, nope, not today, and book it back upstairs, key jangling in my hand. Here's some elderly wisdom. My grandma used to say, old papers tell old truths, but they don't always want to be read. She was talking about family secrets, but it fits. Harrow's papers feel like they're fighting to stay hidden. And an odd fact, historians debate psychogeography, the idea that places hold emotional or spiritual residue from past events. Some call it punk. Others say it explains why certain buildings feel haunted. This library is giving me psychogeographic vibes, and I am not loving it. Back at the table, I skim the notebook. It's dense with ritual talk mentioning anchors and sigils like the ones on my building. One page says the ritual needs keepers to maintain it, people like the watchers. I'm betting Kaplan's tied to this, willingly or not. I pack up whispers, fading as I leave the library, but the weight of Harrow's secrets follows me. Outside, the fog's lifting, but the hooded figures nowhere in sight. I head home, ready to confront Kaplan and check the basement again. Whatever Harrow sealed, it's stirring, and I'm stuck in the middle of it. I'm back in my apartment building, standing in the hallway outside Mrs. Kaplan's door. Heart hammering, like I'm about to audition for a thriller. It's evening, the fog still lingering outside, and the journal's in my backpack. Its secrets practically burning through the fabric. The library's Harrow papers, especially that letter to E. Kaplan, have me convinced my neighbor knows something about this mess. The whispers are back louder now, seeping from behind her door like a radio tuned to a ghost station. The hallway's lights flicker, casting jagged shadows that dance across the walls, and I mutter, if this is a trap, I'm leaving a strongly worded note. I knock firm but not aggressive, hoping I don't sound like a paranoid lunatic. No answer. I knock again louder, and the whispers spike a sharp hum that makes my teeth ache. The chalk mark on the wall, the spiral slash symbol, seems to glow faintly. Or maybe that's just the bad lighting. I'm about to give up when the door creaks open just a crack, and Kaplan's face appears. She's pale eyes, sharp but tired like she hasn't slept in days. What do you want? She snaps, her voice low, almost drowned out by the whispers. I hesitate, then blurt, I found something about the building about Harrow, and your name came up. Her eyes narrow, and for a second I think she's gonna slam the door. Instead, she steps back, gesturing me inside. Keep your voice down, she hisses. Her apartment's a time capsule. Floral wallpaper, faded photos, and a smell like mothballs and old tea. The whispers are deafening her, buzzing like a swarm of bees, and I spot more symbols scratched into the doorframe hidden behind a coat rack. Kaplan shuts the door, locking it, and points to a sagging couch. Sit, she says, like I'm a kid in trouble. I do, backpack clutched tight, and she paces her slippers, scuffing the rug. You've been poking around, haven't you? She says, not looking at me. Found that damn journal, I bet. I nod, too stunned to lie. She sighs, rubbing her temples. You're in over your head, kid. She tells me her grandmother was Esther Kaplan E. Kaplan Harrow's ally in the 1940s. They were part of a group that sealed something in the building, something not from here. The ritual bound it using sigils and keepers like her family. My job's to watch, she says, voice bitter. Not to fight, not to fix, just watch. The whispers pulse, and I realize they're not coming from the walls, they're coming from her or something near her. I pull out the journal, showing her the spiral slash symbol. These are on the building your door. What's happening? She freezes, then grabs a flashlight from a drawer, muttering, you've stirred it up. That's what. We head to the basement, her idea, not mine. The whispers follow a chorus now, and the lights flicker worse down here. Kaplan moves like she knows the place too well, leading me past the crates to the grate I crawl through. She kneels, shining her light into the passage, and curses under her breath. The sigils are fading, she says, pointing to faint scratches on the brick barely visible. You touched the journal, didn't you? It's waking, I stammer. Waking what? She glares, something that doesn't like being caged. The whispers turn into a low growl, and the air feels electric like a storm's brewing. I mutter, if this is my fault, I'm sorry, but maybe clue me in next time. Here's some elderly wisdom. My grandpa used to say, don't open a door unless you're ready for what's behind it. He meant life choices, but it hits hard when you're in a basement with a grumpy neighbor and a growling void. And an odd fact, occult scholars debate genius. Loosely, the idea that places can have a spirit or presence tied to them. Some call it myth. Others point to ancient sites where rituals left a mark. This building's got a genius loci, and it's pissed. Kaplan pulls a piece of chalk from her pocket, redrawing the sigils with quick practice strokes. The growling eases, but the whispers don't stop. This won't hold forever, she says. Harrow's ritual was a patch, not a fix. She looks at me, eyes hard. You're part of this now, help or get out of my way. I nod because running feels worse than staying. We head back upstairs, the whispers trailing like a warning. Kaplan's not my friend, but she's my ally for now. I'm stuck with a journal, a building that's alive, and a neighbor who's been fighting a war I just stumbled into. I'm back in the basement, crammed into a storage room with Kaplan the journal open on a crate between us. It's past midnight, and the single bulb overhead sways slightly, casting wobbly shadows that make the walls feel alive. Kaplan's chalked sigils, those spiral slash symbols, glow faintly on the brick like they're pulsing with a heartbeat. The whispers have changed since we came down here. They're not just a hum anymore, but a single voice, low and cold, murmuring words I can't quite catch. It's like someone standing just behind me, breathing down my neck. I mutter, "If you've got something to say, spit it out," but my voice cracks, betraying how freaked out I am. Kaplan shoots me a look, her face grim under the harsh light. "Focus," she snaps, tracing another sigil with her chalk. She's been filling me in, and it's not exactly bedtime story material. The thing Harrow and her grandmother sealed in 1947 isn't a ghost or demon. It's something older, formless, tied to the land the building sits on. They called it the hunger because it feeds on attention, intention, whatever you give it. The sigils and keepers like Kaplan's family keep it dormant, but my poking around, finding the journal, copying the symbols stirred it. "You gave it a voice," she says, not accusing, but stating a fact. I wince, clutching the journal. Didn't exactly come with a manual, I mumble, but she's already back to her chalk, reinforcing the sigils. The voice grows clearer, whispering, "See me, know me." I shiver, and Kaplan mutters, "Ignore it. It wants you to listen." We're trying to strengthen the binding using Harrow's notes. The journal's open to a page with a ritual diagram, circles, sigils, and instructions to anchor the vessel. Kaplan thinks the vessel is the building itself, its bricks etched with symbols to hold the hunger. But the sigils are fading faster than she can redraw them, and the voice is getting louder now, saying, "Free me." I glance at the grate in the corner, the one I crawled through, and notice something new. The bricks around it are crumbling like they're being eaten away. I point it out, and Kaplan curses, grabbing her flashlight. "It's pushing through," she says, voice tight. I mutter, "Great, now it's renovating," trying to keep my panic in check. Kaplan hands me the chalk. "Draw what I draw," she orders, and I fumble copying her sigils on the opposite wall. My hands shake, but the glowing lines steady me like I'm fighting back. The voice laughs, a sound like glass cracking, and the bulb flickers, plunging us into near darkness for a second. "It's testing us," Kaplan says, her voice steady, but her eyes wide. She pulls a small knife from her pocket, pricking her finger and smearing blood on a sigil. "Harrow's trick," she explains. "It strengthens the anchor." The voice snarls and the air feels heavier, pressing on my chest. I hesitate, then prick my own finger, wincing as I copy her. The sigil flares, brighter, and the voice quiets, but only slightly. "Here's some elderly wisdom my great aunt used to say, 'Don't feed what you can't kill.'" She was talking about grudges, but it fits. The hunger thrives on attention, and I've been serving it a buffet. And an odd fact, anthropologists debate liminal entities, beings tied to thresholds or places of transition like doorways or sacred sites. Some say they're myths. Others argue they're real, feeding on human belief. The hunger feels liminal, and this basement's its doorway. Kaplan's blood trick seems to work, but she warns it's temporary. "We need a new vessel," she says, eyeing the journal, "or someone to carry it." Her look makes my stomach drop. She means me. The bulb steadies, but the whispers don't stop now. A soft chant. Choose. Choose. Kaplan's redrawing sigils, but her hands are slowing like she's exhausted. I flip through the journal, desperate for a better solution. A passage catches my eye. The vessel must be willing, or the binding fails. I read it aloud, and Kaplan freezes. That's why it's fighting, she says. Harrow forced it. We need a volunteer. The voice laughs again, and the crate shakes like something's knocking from inside. I grip the journal, heart racing. I'm not signing up to be a human cage, I say. But Kaplan's eyes say I might not have a choice. The sigils pulse. The voice waits, and I'm running out of time to decide. The basement storage room feels like a pressure cooker. The air thick and buzzing as dawn creeps closer. The single bulb flickers wildly now, making the sigils on the walls pulse like dying stars, bright 1 second, dim the next. Kaplan's crouched by the great chalk in one hand, knife in the other, her face a mask of grim focus. The journal's open on the crate, its pages fluttering like they're caught in a breeze I can't feel. The voice, the hunger's voice, is no longer a whisper, but a steady, icy demand. Choose. Now, it's drilling into my skull, and a faint tremor rumbles through the floor, rattling the crates around us. I mutter, if this is an eviction notice, I'd prefer it in writing. But my sarcasm's wearing thin, and Kaplan's glare says she's not in the mood. The tremor stops, but the voice doesn't. You woke me. You owe me. It hisses, and I feel it like a hook in my chest, tugging at something I can't name. Kaplan's redrawn sigils are holding barely, but the crumbling bricks around the grate are spreading cracks, spiderwebbing across the wall. She looks at me, eyes hard, but not unkind. It wants a vessel, she says. Someone to carry it, or it'll tear this place apart. I grip the journal, my pricked finger still stinging, and shake my head. I'm not volunteering to be its Airbnb, I say, but my voice wavers. The ritual's notes are clear, a willing vessel or the binding fails. And failure means the hunger gets out. Kaplan stands, wiping chalk dust on her pants. Harrow tried to force it, she says. Thought he could trap it forever. Didn't work. It's why the sigils fade, why it's fighting. She points to the journal. You found it. You read it. That's why it's latched onto you. I want to argue, but the voice cuts in. Yorta, mine. And the bulb pops, plunging us into darkness. My heart lurches, but Kaplan's flashlight clicks on its beam, catching the sigils now glowing blood red. The tremor hits again stronger, and dust sifts from the ceiling. I mutter, if the building collapses, I'm leaving a 1-star review. Kaplan doesn't laugh. She grabs the journal, flipping to the ritual page. There's another way, she says, voice tight. We can split the load, share the vessel. It's risky, but it might buy time. The idea makes my skin crawl, letting that thing inside me even a little. But the cracks are widening, and the voice is a roar now. Choose or I take. Kaplan's already slicing her palm, blood dripping onto a sigil, and she hands me the knife. Your call, she says. I hesitate, the journal's words echoing in my head, willing. I think of the hooded figure, the whispers, the building's weight. If I run, it follows. If I fight, maybe I control it. I take the knife, cut my palm, and press it to the sigil. Pain shoots up my arm, and the voice screams a sound like tearing metal. The sigils flare, blinding, and the tremor stops. The air lightens, but something shifts inside me, a cold weight like a stone in my chest. The voice is quieter, murmuring, "Pound. For now?" Kaplan's breathing hard, her hand bloody, and she nods at me, almost approving. "You're in it now," she says. "No going back." The sigils fade to a dull glow, and the bulb's remains flicker back to life, barely. The grate's bricks are still cracked, but they've stopped crumbling. We did something, bought time maybe, but the hunger's not gone. It's in me, in Kaplan, in the building. Here's some elderly wisdom my dad used to say: "You can't outrun what you carry." He meant guilt, but it fits. I'm carrying the hunger now, and it's heavy. And an odd fact, mystics debate shared burdens in rituals, where multiple people split a spiritual load to dilute its power. Some call it folklore. Others say it's why covens exist. Kaplan and I just formed a two-person coven, and I'm not thrilled about it. She picks up the journal, handing it to me. "Keep it safe," she says. "And don't read it unless I'm there." I nod, too tired to argue. The whispers are faint again, but they're not gone. And neither is the cold in my chest. We climb back upstairs, the building quiet but watchful. Kaplan locks her door without a word, and I'm alone in my apartment, journal on the desk, blood still on my hand. Dawn's breaking outside, the fog thinning, but the world feels different now, like I'm not just living in the building, but part of it. I'm not sure what's next. Find the hooded figure, learn more about Harrow, or just survive. But I know one thing: the hunger's waiting, and I've got to keep it sleeping.